Hello, and welcome back to another edition of Between the T's, the knowledge sharing program from Texas Bank and Trust. I'm your host, Karen Partee. You know, the purpose of retirement savings is to invest in your future. And at some point, we all may reach an age when we choose not to work any longer, or perhaps we encounter a life event that prevents us from doing so. Regardless of when that time comes, we need to consider having a plan to cover our finances and hopefully live a comfortable lifestyle. Yet many individuals today could be facing an uncomfortable reality. They may find they have no money in retirement savings, they've not saved enough to provide a sufficient income, or they may have withdrawn funds early or borrowed against their investments, all of which can have some pretty serious challenges for individuals down the road. Therefore, the time is now for all of us to be better prepared. To help us make sense of the realities of retirement planning, we're joined once again by Bonni Kids, Senior Vice President and Retirement Plan Services Manager in the Trust and Investment Division of Texas Bank and Trust. Welcome back, Bonni. Glad to have you back on the program.
Thank you.
So let's examine this situation. I have been faithfully pulling out of my pay every month to put into my retirement savings, wanting my investments to grow over time. Now, I'm not ready to retire, but I do want to help my son with college, and I'm considering remodel of my home. You know, the temptation is the money is sitting right there for me to use. But what are the realities? What would be the consequences of me taking early withdrawal on my cash?
Well, there's two different types of withdrawals. So there is an early withdrawal. Technically, it would be called a hardship, which could cover the cost of education expenses.
Okay.
With an early withdrawal, there is a 10% penalty plus whatever your normal income taxes are. So a huge chunk of that would go to the IRS.
Okay.
So it's something that we definitely discourage people, even though that money is right there and it's tempting.
Right. It's mine.
It's yours, but it is there for a purpose. It's there for your retirement.
Okay.
Now, the other option that's available, I think that you mentioned, is a loan. So sometimes people want to borrow their money, and that is available to them also. And it's kind of the lesser of two evils. The downside is that when you take a loan, we're going to sell out of whatever investments you have. So your return on that money is going to be limited to the interest that you pay on the loan.
Okay.
If you put your money in as a pre-tax contribution, which is a regular 401k, then when you make a loan payment, it's after-tax money. So it's after-tax money going in, but then when you take distributions in retirement, that money is going to be taxed as ordinary income. So it's a double taxation.
Okay.
So that's another downside of taking a loan. The other thing is if you were to leave your place of employment, typically we always recommend that someone roll their money either to an individual retirement account or to another 401k with their new employer. But if you have a loan, that loan can't be rolled.
Okay.
So when a person leaves their employment, that loan becomes due and payable. So if they don't have money from an outside source, then they have to take a distribution of the outstanding loan balance at that time. And those penalties still apply if they're under the age of 59 and a half.
So if we already have some loans against our retirement, what should we be doing? What should we be considering about those current loans against our retirement?
I think it's very important to try to pay those loans off earlier.
Okay.
There's a set time period to pay that loan off, but if you can, make extra payments so that you pay it off sooner, and that way your money can be invested in the stock market, which would give you a potential higher return over a long period of time.
Now, you mentioned if I were to leave my employer and what happens to that 401k money, are there penalties if I were to take that out as cash?
Yes, there are. If you take out money from a retirement account before age 59 and a half, there's a 10% penalty plus whatever your tax bracket is. So it's just like the early withdrawal. And we see a lot of people as they leave one place of employment to move to another job, the temptation is always there to take that money out, pay off something, higher interest credit cards or whatever purpose that they have right then that they think is more important. But that $10,000 or whatever that balance is right now can ultimately equate to something like $50,000 or $75,000 in as little as 30 years from now.
So their thought is that when they get to their new employer, they'll just start their retirement.
Exactly.
How much could that you said almost 50,000, seemingly it could be an example of what they could lose just in that short time period of not just rolling it over.
That's correct.
Is there a certain time period to make that rollover?
Well, for most retirement plans, there's not any set time period that they have to roll the money over. As a matter of fact, most of the plans, in the rules of a retirement account, they cannot force a person, if they have a certain balance, to roll that money over. So you can leave it in your old employer's plan if you want to, but most people want to roll that either to an individual retirement account or to their new employer's plan so that they can have more access to the funds.
Well, a lot of people will look at pulling out of these funds as a hardship, as you mentioned. They might take the early withdrawal, they might take the loan. But how do you counsel clients that are facing that decision? How do you tell them to consider the long term?
Well, it's just something that we try to get them to realize that it is a long-term process, and that if they take that money now, then they're not going to have it in retirement. But ultimately, it is their decision, and so sometimes we can't protect them from themselves.
Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate the information. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge on a very important topic for us.
Thank you.
Bonnie's certainly helped us understand the impact a saving can have on our future, as well as the dangers of halting that progress. But unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of Between the Tees. And so we certainly want to thank Bonni Kids for joining us once again, sharing some of her knowledge. But if you have any additional questions about your own retirement planning, please consult your preferred retirement plan services professional or a financial planner regarding your personal accounts. As a reminder, investment products are not a deposit or obligation of Texas Bank and Trust. They are not guaranteed by Texas Bank and Trust, not insured by the FDIC or any other federal government agency, and may go down in value. We hope you enjoyed this information. Until next time, remember that knowledge is power, and share between the T's. I'm Karen Partee. Thanks for watching.